Good evening, guys. Usually I'm jovial. Uh, I would say my traditional catchphrase, not in the mood, I'm sorry. Oh, what the hell. We are live, and I'm coming at you with 5. Welcome to G-Boot 2786. This is Gavin Richard Presents. Who's in the chat? We'll get started in a minute. I'm gonna put this in the chat box. I'll even put it in the description later. Somebody in the chat room? Come on, y'all can say something. Well, it is getting a little late, so I'm not going to wait too much longer to get more people in. There are going to be people, obviously, that are going to watch the video, after I finish going live with it. Of course, let's just get into it. You guys already know what this is about, probably. Yesterday, I posted a short little video about the conviction of Amber Guyger in the September 6, 2018 murder of Botham Jean. And Botham Jean obviously is from St. Lucia, the St. Lucia Islands. And he was murdered in his Dallas apartment by this racist piece of shit cop. Now, she claimed self-defense and a mistake of fact, and the jury had heard the evidence. We all heard the evidence, and people didn't buy it. And, I was going to do a follow-up video yesterday, just talking about how justice was reached. And if you look at the very definition of what justice means, you can Google it. But justice, by its very definition, means to give to one's accord, or to give what is just. Just behavior, and an example of it would be basically if you were charged with theft. Let's say you stole a $1,500, watch or something like that. Of course, that would be felony, because with each grade, of offense, depending on the value of the property, you can be jailed for that. Now, let's say it's your first offense. A judge may give you 6 months probation, suspended, but 100 hours of 150 hours of community service. They would have to pay off any court costs and fees, anything that loss prevention had from the place you shoplifted or stole this from, something like that. I think people could see, based off of the fact that it was the first offense and first time felony, of course, why that person may or may not get jail time. Of course, if it happens again, then and the judge increases the penalty, and this time this person does jail time, and let's say it's not $1,500, it's $5,000, then of course jail time would be mandatory, and more than likely you would end up doing 6 months in jail, especially if you fail, show up for violating your probation and parole, things like that. That is the quality of being fair and reasonable. That is what justice is, to apply the law reasonably to each case based off the facts and circumstances. And I am glad. I think so many others who thought, that this, oh gosh, my connection is being unstable. We're going to keep going. Just like many people who thought that this judge was going to do the right thing, that this jury was going to do the right thing. We finally got justice for Botham. We finally got something going. No. So just to get right into it, for those that don't know, but unless you've been living under a rock, earlier today was the sentencing for Amber Guyger. They called Botham Jean's family members and friends and co-workers to the witness stand to testify on behalf of Botham with regards to the sentencing. And then the defense called their witnesses, including Guyger's mother and sister and aunt, and they called two tokens, blacks, one who was an immigrant cop. I thought she looked like the Black Panther sister, T'Challa's sister. Then the other of, I'm just going to say it, a crackhead. Let me get their names. Hold on a second. And they testified about how she was great with them and how she did all of this and that. She was with me with much when I wanted to get work probation and all of this stuff, and said, "Oh, you're not qualified for this, whatever." So, hold on a second. Let me pull their names up. This was LaWanda Clark and a Kenyan immigrant cop named Kathy Odimambo. I might be getting that wrong. Odimambo. I'm sorry. She's a Dallas police officer. Okay? So they testified. Miss Clark, I believe, was the last one that testified. And the jury deliberated for an hour and a half to render a sentence of 10 years. Now, I spoke with other lawyer friends of mine and what their guess was and why that was done. They think that the parties, meaning the defense and the plaintiff, probably agreed with the judge that this would be the appropriate sentence if it was just 10 years. Okay. Aside from that, 10 years for murder. Let me just say, Bill Cosby, and we talk about Bill Cosby a lot, is doing 3 to 10 years and 83 years old, blind, for things that were based on hearsay and speculation, a case that was settled with no evidence, no rape kit, no DNA, nothing, absolutely nothing. And he is forced to actually sit the remainder of his 10 years. He has chosen to do that because he, in order to be eligible for parole, he has to take mandatory sex offender classes. And he has refused to do so because he's maintained he is not a sex offender, a sexual predator. He did not break any law. He said this was consensual. He considers himself a political prisoner. You had people in black media and the black press who ignored that case. I don't like Roland Martin, but I actually, at least Roland had Andrew Wyatt, who broke down the facts. Nicole from our sister Nicole Lewis, shout out to her from Nicole's View. She actually did a video that went viral about the 1-year anniversary of the Bill Cosby case. And the Toronto News even mentioned her, and they even mentioned me because I tweeted out a tweet in support of her because she was being attacked by all of these trolls and white supremacists over her comments. And you can go and look at the thread because Bill Cosby's official page shouted her out. And of course, there are some other heroes who have done a lot of work in the Bill Cosby case, including our brother Drew Hepkins, Shamakara, Ron Hurd from We All Be News, and Brother Harvey from Your World. There are a lot of people. Kia Soto, I can mention, who I think was only black member of the black press that was there. Keep in mind, TV1 was not there. Tom Joyner, even though Bill Cosby and Tom Joyner are frat brothers, he wasn't even there for trial. So you have these Negroes who are put in these positions, and I'm going to get to Judge Tammy Kemp, speaking of Negroes, in a second, that are put in these positions as gatekeepers that don't look out for us. And tying that in with Bill Cosby, Amber Guyger is only going to get 10 years, but she's not going to do 10 years. She's going to be eligible for parole in 5. Now, this is for homicide. This is for murder. Think about that. There are black men right now that are in jail doing, if for having a few grams of weed, If you're registered, they'll have you registered as a habitual offender. Charged as a habitual offender, meaning you get multi-billed. They will increase the penalties for you in most states. And we got stuff like that going on right now where men are sitting in jail 40, 20, 30 years on stuff they didn't do. They have women who've committed, a woman I just read that committed shoplifting and got life in fucking prison. Practically. I read the headline. I kid you not. Hold on, let me pull it up. On Democracy Now. So
a shocking new study by the American Civil Liberties Union has found that more than 3,200 people nationwide are serving life terms without parole for nonviolent offenses. Of those prisoners, 80% are behind bars for drug-related crimes. 65% are African American, 18% are white, and 16% are Latino. Evidence of what the ACLU calls extreme racial disparities.
Okay. Well, I typed this in. This was the video from American Democracy. But you see my point. We have men and women in jail on bullshit, less than murder, that do time. Here's another article. A man gets 45 years for shooting a police dog, a fucking dog. Got 45 years in prison. Now, of course, yeah, he was charged with other counts stemming from 4 earlier burglaries and an unrelated aggravated robbery. He pled guilty to those. So, okay, I can see why those were added on. But you see, and this is from 2016, but this is an example of how fucked up our justice system can be, where we will punish people more for a dog. Michael Vick did jail time for killing a fucking dog only because his boys snitched on him. They didn't do time, and he wasn't even the one that actually did the dog fighting. He just permitted it, and he was the bigger name. But he did time. So I watched that sentencing, and I was completely disgusted by the 10 years, and I actually turned it off. But then when I turned it back on to hear the victim impact statements, I see Botham Jean's brother, Brandt Jean, on the witness stand. And what I honestly think is that I honestly believe he was picked by the family to speak, but he basically got on there, and I listened to bits and pieces of it because it was hard to watch. I saw him hugging her right in front of the judge, right by the bailiff, the deputies. They're crying. I hear someone else crying, and he said, "Can I give her a hug? Can I give her a hug?" And basically, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I rewinded to see what else he said, and he even said, this Negro even said, I don't even wish you were in jail. I just want you to accept Christ. And why do we keep forgiving these racists? This does nothing to stop. Okay, time out. I can respect, let me start by saying this. People have a right to mourn their loved ones, to remember their loved ones how they see fit. Botham Jean was not my brother or a family member in any way. So, and I do believe in the power of forgiveness. I do believe in God. I do believe in Christ. And I certainly, if I did something wrong, I would want not only the ability to apologize, but I would like for that person to forgive my mistake for what I did. I can accept that. I believe in stuff like that. But should I do it in public with cameras around me? Yet alone, should I do it at a sentencing phase? Because I will tell you this honestly, I don't believe that family, I don't believe Brandt Jean would have done that if Amber Guyger were black. Can we just call it what it is? Because I've been in court, and when I have seen men sentenced for life in prison for murder, you know what I see? The family members of the victim are there, and the family members for the murderer are there. And usually, what happens? There's a big fight or argument that'll start in the hallway, mostly from the family of the murderer talking to the family of the victim, saying, "Your boy wasn't shit. No, you didn't do this, you didn't do that," and back and forth. And the deputies having to come out to figure out what's going on. So to have him, an 18-year-old, Botham Jean's mother and father testify, and they could have actually spoken, but you brought an 18-year-old up there, who basically looked like he was in a sunken place. And I'm looking at the girl who was the woman that was Bill Cosby's a former attorney, Monique Presley. I don't know what the hell she was thinking, because she was arguing and putting up, even supporting what the brother did. Saying, I'm going to wonder, will we see something along the line, we're going to see people who are there going to be people that are going to disrespect this young man as they did the bailiff? Are you fucking kidding me? And I had to ask her, I had to even ask her, I said, when have you ever seen anything like this, yet alone a judge coming down from the bench hugging the murderer? When have you ever seen something like that? In my 5 years of practice, and Monique Presley has been practicing law longer than I have, I know. I've never seen anything like that. And I know damn well she's never seen anything like that, where a judge will come down from the bench and give her a Bible and hug her like nothing happened. And to top it all off, I don't think she left the courtroom in cuffs. Amber Guyger wasn't even cuffed when she left the damn courtroom. Do you see how insulting that is to the Black community? Because I know if the roles were reversed and Botham Jean had killed Amber Guyger, I know Judge Tammy Kemp probably would have called him a monster and murderer. I know if that was just any other Black man that was sitting in there as a defendant, they wouldn't have the bailiff combing their hair. And that was another thing that disturbed me, to see that bailiff combing Guyger's hair like it was nothing. And they tried to say, oh, you're doing her wrong. She was looking for contraband. Bullshit. Bullshit. You know how I know that? Because if there's contraband on her, number one, get along, anything that she could cut herself, they're not going to prod that with their fingers. And second of all, if they are going to use their fingers, they put gloves on when they search you. They always do that, because then if there's evidence of another crime, that preserves that evidence. If they were getting contraband, because contraband, whether it's drugs, whether it's weapons or anything like that, that they take from the outside to bring into the jail, that's considered, illegal. That's contraband. And Judge Tammy Kemp, Tariq called her Tammy the Mammy. I'm not licensed in Texas. And, all this week, people were praising her. People were applauding her, how she handled the trial. I've never seen, this was a slap in the face. And if you are a registered voter in Dallas, Texas, you seriously need to consider recalling that woman, because that was highly unprofessional. I have never seen a judge shake hands or hug a defendant after a sentencing or conviction of murder, yet alone even petty theft. I've never seen that in my years, and my years have been small. I've never seen anything like that. And yeah, they can be emotional, they could be sad, but there's still a level of conduct and decorum as a judge, as a lawyer, that you are supposed to hold. And for her to do that with the cameras around, for them to do that, was disgusting. I never seen the level of coonery. I got to say it. I'm sorry. This is just how I feel. free speech. And I want to be clear. I'm not trying to disrespect it. No, I'm not even doing that. I know that as attorneys, we of course got to show respect to judges and to lawyers, but I'm not licensed in Texas. And if I say I wouldn't vote for her, I wouldn't. That's my First Amendment right. That's my right. My 15th Amendment right. If I was licensed in doubt, if I was arrested based off that. And you know what's another thing too, what is interesting, because we talk about forgiveness, the black slaves who were Christians back in the day were actually the ones that revolted against slavery. Nat Turner, he considered himself a prophet of God and fought against slavery. Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, I can go on. Martin Delany, they fought against that. They rose against that. Nat Turner in particular, if you saw his story, he waited for a sign from God to start the revolution. Even back in the 50s and 60s, you had black people that were armed. They didn't take whites coming into their neighborhood and burning crosses. I was change this narrative. That's why you've never seen movies, maybe with the exception of a made-for-TV movie, that showed black people revolting and being violent. And I shouldn't say violent, but taking up arms in self-defense. That's what the Deacons for Defense were. Those brothers here in Louisiana, outside Bogalusa, they fought the Klan. They didn't tolerate shit like this. If you were cool with them, they were cool with you. But if you came at them or their family, guess what? You were in for war. I'm totally embarrassed by that. And, I'm done with that family. I have nothing more to say about the John family because it's apparent that's something like I was talking to my brother, Brian Ponder, who's an attorney out in Georgia, a good brother. He said himself when we were talking on Facebook Live, he said, I really should not going to give any more energy to that family because it's clear that's what they wanted. And I agree with him. I think that's what they wanted. The whole thing looked set up. I'm just going to say it looked like it was a setup. I don't want to ever, of course I can't say anything to to demean the impunity of a court proceeding. I would never say something like that, but just looking at it from the outside, how they behave today, the ruling by the jury, what I believe is that they wanted 10 years to give her. I think they probably stipulated to that in the back because the judge and the attorneys kept going and talking off the record. Things like that do happen. They call it in camera when it's not in the presence of the jury. In judges' chambers, things like that do happen. And, I've seen flyers for Judge Tammy Kemp where she's been endorsed by the police union. And all that's going to happen is Amber Guyger is probably going to do 3 years not even in a maximum security prison. She's probably going to be in a typical jail, probably a local jail. She'll do her time away from, general population because she's a former cop. And she'll finish her time. She'll get parole. The family probably will be there at the parole hearing. That was completely disgusting, what I saw. Forgiveness, and let me be clear, when we talk about forgiveness again, let me make this point. You forgive people because you would want your father to forgive them. I get that. And also, you do it for yourself because you don't want the burden of hatred and to be weighing down on you forever and ever. Because I have seen where I know people who I'm friends with, who I love, that have never forgiven someone for doing something wrong to them. and it made them real bitter. So I get that aspect of it. But to do it this soon, to do it in court with cameras around, and you know there are cameras around, when you've had the support of the community in Dallas, because those sisters that came out there that were supporting the Botham Jean's family that were in red, they were outraged. They were outraged. He clout chaser. I mean, yeah, he probably could have been after Amber Guyger. He probably wanted some of that white cooch. Tariq Nasheed talked about that. I was embarrassed and stunned and so disappointed. And that family looked like they're in a sunken place. It's important for, I even talk about jury, serving on a jury, how important it is. And after they got the conviction, but I don't even know what to think. I'm just being real. Even with this, yeah, that jury, they came back with a conviction of murder, but the sentence that went high for conviction, but they went low. If they were going to do all of this shit, they could have just acquitted her. Because that's basically what it looks like. And I guarantee you, whoever's ever in that court with Judge Kemp, if you're in Dallas, any of my people in Dallas, shout out to you. If you're in Texas, I want you to please go to her next criminal docket, and I want you to observe when there's a sentencing and that defendant is black, if that person is found guilty, I want you to please let us know if she will come down from the bench and hug the defendant and give him a Bible. Tell me they'll do that. Maybe I'll let it go if that's something she's starting. But to do that today, oh my gosh. I'm still speechless. I'm still pissed off. Because we don't get, when it's us and it's our turn, we damn sure don't get that type of treatment. Let me just tell you something. Do you honestly, I've seen enough documentaries on the death penalty. I've seen things on television. There's a show on National Geographic about the death penalty, a docu-series, I believe, that I watched. And these white family members, when their loved one was shot, they actually state that they've come to grips with the decision. They've come to grips with the loved one not being there. And they've even said they forgive them. But guess what? They will show up to the actual death sentence. They will actually go there and watch that person as he takes his final breath when they stick the needle in his fucking arm. They wouldn't abolish the death penalty for him. They wouldn't say, no, he doesn't want death. He doesn't deserve death. The James Byrd's family, when James Byrd was dragged out in Texas, that family fought against the death penalty for the man that dragged their son, their father, on that dirt road till he was mutilated. You couldn't even recognize him. You couldn't recognize James Byrd. His skin, his flesh was all torn from the asphalt that they dragged him on when they tied him to the back of the truck by his feet. There's no way if Amber Guyger were black, she would have gotten that type of treatment. If she were black and a male, oh, hell no. I know the family wouldn't be up there crying and hollering about forgiveness. I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed in this system. I mean, I expected, because it is America, this is the system, but I was so disappointed to see the behavior of the so-called black people, our people in color, at that court. I don't even know what to say, guys. I would put, when election season comes up, find somebody other than her, other than Miss Judge Kemp, Miss Kemp, whether she's a soror or not. And that's another problem. Because I saw a lot of people, a lot of the sisters who are Deltas that were all hooping and hollering because they said, our Delta sister, we stand by her and so forth. And now that she did this, some of them are still standing by her that I've seen. And I couldn't believe it. What's she saying about your brother by doing that? Your husband, if that was your husband, if that were your son, groups, allegiances, and aside, there's something called right and wrong. I have one of my good friends. I know the attorney for the John family, Daryl Washington, good brother. And he couldn't believe she got 10 years. He's not sure why. I'm disgusted. I literally, and people can be mad at me for saying that, but that was some coonish stuff. There's nothing that I saw. What I witnessed these last 2 days, from the brushing of the hair by the bailiff to what I saw today, the judge hugging a defendant, giving them a Bible, basically coddling them, and this person being allowed to leave the courtroom, not even handcuffed when he out the courtroom, the camera on him, to send you a message. This is what we do to your father, America's favorite father, boy. Never mind all the great stuff the man did in his life for black colleges and universities, how he paid for people's education, the images he portrayed, the things that he did for us. He's the only one in jail over this Me Too shit. But Amber Guyger can walk out without handcuffs. Remember, Dylan Roof walked out when he was arrested, was able to walk out alive, and they stopped to get him a Burger King meal. When he went in his first arraignment before the judge and for bail, how the judge actually, his parents and family and the family's victims. Excuse me? He's alive. Those victims aren't. Botham Jean is dead. They can't see their child. Amber Guyger, her family could visit her. You damn right I'm mad. Black people, if you stop forgiving these people, stop doing this shit. I was so disgusted by what I saw. Because now when media broadcasts stuff like this and they see it, they're going to think, well, they're not going to fight back. They're not going to retaliate. So it's okay that they did this. It's okay. They're going to lower the impact of killing a black person. That's why I don't like this. They take that as a sign. It is a sign of weakness when you just do that. When you're at war, yeah, she was unprofessional. I mean, you think the Jews forgive the Nazis? Do you think they would hug a Nazi just like that If the Nazis said, I'm sorry, I exterminated your family, that I threw them in gas chambers, hell no, they didn't do that. They fought back. Same thing with the Native Americans. When their families were attacked, even though they got wiped out, they still fought wars. They stood for what they believed. And let me be clear, this is not about me preaching violence, but I'm just letting you guys know how people react, how you react to adversity will say a lot about your character to your enemy, to the villain. You know, if you don't have a gun, black people, get one. Get one. Arm yourself. Learn about the Second Amendment. If you don't want to join the NRA, there are Black Gun Owners Associations you can join. Look them up. Black Gun Owners Association is one. There's a couple others I can think of. I can't think off the top of my head. Look at them. And you know what? Even though the NRA could, yeah, they have race. They can be racist. They are racist. At least we have a common goal in that we want our rights to protect and arm ourselves. And if, as allies, if we want to exercise those rights, they at least are defending that notion. So, hell, we find common ground on something. Find common ground on something. Take it. I'll support that. Get your Second Amendment game up. Because apparently you ain't even safe. You're not even safe in your own home. Somebody shoots you in your own house, all they can do is claim a mistake. Oops. Okay, that's okay. Just a little fine, a slap on the wrist. I've talked enough about this, guys. I'm not gonna give this my energy, but I'm just disgusted. That's it. You guys have a good night. We want to try it. We've seen worse. There are probably going to be more coming. We're going to get through it together. I'm done. Peace.